Hello and welcome to another Armchair Athletes live stream here on YouTube. My name is Corey and this is Armchair Athletes, where I do plenty of fantasy analyses, case studies, and answer all of your fantasy questions in the comment section below. So as you can tell by the thumbnail and the name of this video, this is the Week 14 waiver wire ads video. I'll be giving you guys 5 options that you should definitely exercise in terms of just swapping these people out with the worst ones on your bench. It's going to depend on the depth of your league. Some of these are catered to people who are in 8 or even 10 team leagues. Some of these will be catering to people who are in dynasty leagues, 16-team leagues, 14-team leagues, super flex, and all those different hybrids as well. I try and accommodate all of you. Before we get started today, make sure that you follow us on all of our social media platforms at Armchair Athletes. Those links are in the description. Also, if you are confident in your sports research like I am, make sure that you join Underdog Fantasy by hitting the link in the description. Use promo code Corey0410, so that's CORY 0410, also in the description, to get your deposit match dollar for dollar up to $100. So if you put 50 in, you're working with 100, so on and so forth. They double your deposit up to $100. So you're already in the green from the start. Great app that lets you guess overs and unders and gives you constant fantasy updates as well. You can even do best ball drafts and all those cool things. So be smart with your money. I understand gambling addiction is very serious. Set aside a small amount of money for the month, or don't go beyond it, or whatever strategy you want to use. Also, make sure you check out the Start 2 Sit 1 YouTube short series we have going on. Quarterbacks and running backs should be out tomorrow, and then wide receivers and tight ends will be out hopefully by Thursday. We're going to shoot for that. Let's start out with our first guy in terms of who you should be adding to your team going into Week 14. As always, folks, if you are looking at this stream at any point in time, even before I hit the end of these 5 points, make sure you drop your questions in the chat. We'll attack it and we'll help you out research your opponent going into Week 14. Another update as we get towards the end of the fantasy football season, the content will not stop. We're actually going to be premiering some pre-recorded videos. We'll do a couple live streams a week as per usual, schedule depending. And they're basically going to be on reflections from the season, players that we can expect to go off for the next 5 years. I'm probably going to do a video dedicated to quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends again, where it's going to be 5 of this position that you can draft for the next 5 years. Reliable guys, locked down on contract, younger, they have a good supporting cast around them, seems to be a stable coaching situation, the team's succeeding, so on and so forth. They're just a good raw talent. So we'll be going over those once the season's done. After that, we're going to start some new mock drafts going into the next season, different strategies, more instructional videos, and plenty of interaction with all of you. And we'll expand beyond the sports world, or beyond the fantasy world, into general sports as well. Baseball, basketball, football, however you want me to really spread this thing out. I can do general sports coverage in streams, shorts. Well, maybe we'll take a poll on that going forward. But this will be beyond a fantasy channel. But during the football season, fantasy football is our number one focus. So that's the majority of what you'll see. And you'll see it year-round, but we'll expand beyond that as well. So let's get into this. We're going to start with the quarterback, Jared Goff. I've stressed this in the past, and now this is more important than ever with Lamar Jackson being down for roughly 3 weeks with a PCL tear, a PCL strain. Fields wasn't running as much against the Packers, so he's still a little bit bruised up. We've got to find answers. We need somebody to fill in at the quarterback position. Jared Goff, I believe, is definitely an answer. Even in 8 or 10 team leagues, I think he's a great answer. If we look at the level of play so far, this is phenomenal. He is having a great year. This is with Amon St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, DJ Chark missing multiple games. Losing TJ Hawkinson halfway through the season and not having Jameson Williams for the entirety of the year so far, coming off that ACL injury. So 1.6 touchdowns per game through the air. That's 19 passing touchdowns through 12 played weeks. A QBR over 95 for the first time since 2018, his last Pro Bowl season when he was with the Rams. 6 multi-passing touchdown games and 2 touchdown games where he got into the end zone through the air on 4 occasions. And he's only had 1 multi-interception game. He does face, Goff does, all teams in the top 16 in terms of pass touchdowns allowed. So he's got a tough schedule coming up in terms of the secondaries he has to go toe-to-toe with. But he recently threw for 240 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Bills. So that's pretty promising. I think even with the tough strength of schedule, with guys like Lamar going down, with Fields being bruised up, you wonder how much it's worth it for him to play down the stretch. Being banged up with the separated shoulder already, and the Bears already being one of the first teams to be eliminated from playoff contention. You've got to wonder what the situation with him might be going forward in terms of designed runs. Using him all out, the last thing the Bears are going to want to do is put their franchise guy, who they believe is their franchise guy, in a long-term injury situation in a season that's already done, and that they're probably aiming for a high draft pick for. So Jared Goff could be a great fill-in. I've stressed this a couple weeks ago, but with the recent injuries happening, especially with the dual threat quarterbacks, not that Jared Goff is dual threat, but we've got a firm point producer who I think can work through the tough matchups in the next couple of weeks. Let's go to the running back position. This one's been surfacing a while. Wanted to hold off on this because he really wasn't getting the usage until week 12. James Cook is a great pick, in my opinion. The production has always been there, but he recently got a lot more touches in week 13, which is super enticing to me. James Cook has always been averaging, he's around the 5.4 yards per carry and 60 carries. That is pretty solid if you ask me. So this is more of a deeper league move, but efficiency, it's not even up for question. I mean, 5.4 yards per carry and 60 carries is well above the league average. If we take a look at Mr. James Cook here, the big issue was usage. Obviously, Devin Singletary being slotted in as that running back one, and he still is. But his role is growing, as you can see here. He had a season high 43% of snaps, or 32 snaps, before week 13. I mean, Cooks, who's, by the way, is the brother of Dalvin Cook. Cook's highest snap count he was in for was 18. So from 18 to 32, nearly doubling there, producing, having 20 touches in that game. Very promising stuff. Another interesting aspect, because he got the ball 14 times on the ground, is Cook's pass game, or his pass catching ability. One of the main reasons Cook is on this list is that he was heavily involved in the pass game in week 13 with 6 receptions in 6 targets. So he caught all 6 of them for 41 yards. That's an easy 10 points in standard PPR. Then he got involved on the ground as well and was able to get over 15 points. One of his better performances this year. So the involvement in the pass game, the higher snap count, it's still a throw-heavy team in Buffalo, but anytime you have a guy performing with a decent sample size now in 60 carries at over 5 yards per carry, he's technically more productive than Devin Singletary. Well, Singletary is used in goal-to-go situations a lot, so you got to think if he gets the ball on the 2-yard line and he gets to the end zone, it's going to obviously hurt his yards per carry. It doesn't mean he's a less productive back. But on paper, it does look like that a little bit with James Cook having the limited action. 5.4 yards per carry is extremely productive nonetheless. That is why I'm a fan of James Cook, along with his increased involvement, both overall and definitely in the passing game, pass-catching game. Let's go to wide receiver, Mac Hollins. This is somebody I've had my eye on for a while. Again, wanted to wait a little bit to make sure I was seeing consistent production from him. He is far and away the number 2 target on the Las Vegas Raiders. He's got 72 targets on the season, with at least 9 targets in 2 of his last 3 games, so heavily involved behind Davante Adams. Even with the upcoming matchup against the Rams, it's not concerning me a whole lot because with Davante Adams out wide, I think that Jalen Ramsey will likely shadow him. He's the team leader in targets with 135, with at least 30 Derek Carr passing attempts in each of the last 5 games. I foresee Mac Hollins getting plenty of opportunities still. Vegas is 9th in throw rate, electing to pass almost 60% of the time. Hollins also has a higher catch rate than Adams, and Foster Moreau has been getting a lot more involved with the tight end position with Darren Waller out, and of course with Hunter Renfrow being out. So I think just limited options, of course, with Renfrow and Waller being out, along with having a higher pass percentage or pass catching percentage, and just overall, this team still isn't great. They're still 5-7. They've been going on runs, but it's good to see the pass heavy scheme has still been followed. It's Derek Carr chucked up 30 of them last week. Definitely not his highest, but still a pretty pass-heavy scheme nonetheless, as Vegas is still 9th in that category. Let's stay at the wide receiver position for another guy on an even more lose-friendly team, I guess I would call it, mostly because of the game script. The Texans have the 2nd easiest remaining schedule against fantasy wide receivers, according to Fantasy Pros. And look, I think this is a perfect time to declare Nico Hollins as the number 1 option in Houston, with Brandon Cooks being down as of late. Houston also throws the ball 61% of the time, 6th most in the league. And again, that's more game script related than anything else for a team that's only won 1 game this year. But as you can see with Brandon Cooks out especially, Hollins has become the clear number 1 for Kyle Allen as of the last 2 weeks since he took over for Davis Mills. We'll see what the quarterback situation looks like in a couple of weeks. Well, more than a couple of weeks, but in a few months, once we hit draft time, maybe Bryce Young. I've been hearing murmurs of that. We'll have to see what the scouting situation looks like. But right now, all I know is that Nico Collins is definitely the number 1 option in Houston due to just availability of the players around him. Production, he caught 3 of 10 targets, got bailed out by a touchdown. Wasn't crazy about that, but it's still going to be a throw-heavy team nonetheless. So kind of what we are dealing with there. It's only fitting that we go after the wide receiver 1 on the team with the most losses, considering how much I do talk about game script. So very attractive situation for a team that's pretty much tanking for the number 1 pick and is about a game and a half ahead of anybody else in terms of being in contention for that. So that is why I am a big Nico Collins fan. I see Brian Pereira's in the chat, Anime's in the chat. Make sure you guys drop all of your questions regarding your fantasy football team heading into week 14. Let me know what your record is. We can kind of have an open conversation there, but it's my job to help you out research your opponents as you're either starting the playoffs or if you're like me, you're 1 week away. I know in formats where it's 4 teams make the playoffs, it's 2 weeks per round, so 15, 16, and 17 and 18, meaning week 14 would be your last regular season week. So pop those questions in the chat. We've got plenty of time, and that is why we are starting on a Tuesday to try and give you as much time as possible to prepare for what is likely the biggest fantasy week of your season. Let's go to the tight end position, and I see this name in the chat already via Brian Pereira. Good to see you in here again, man. I suggested that you add this guy early on in the season. It's Evan Ingram, spoiler alert. He had a few nice games. Value skyrocketed, was owning over half of the league, and then he was dropped after a dry patch of a few games. Low involvement. Catch rate went down, which is especially concerning for a tight end. Usually those throws are nice and easy over the middle, comeback routes. Just situations of that matter. After having 7 targets, though, in week 13, which is the most that he's had since week 7, so we're looking at over a month and a half of playing time, I think I do see Ingram getting more targets with Jacksonville, likely going throw heavy in losses to tough opponents coming up. We've got a pair of games against the Tennessee Titans, the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to play against them once, and then the New York Jets as well. Tough teams, and when you're losing to a tough team and you're down a few possessions, like this Jacksonville team was last week, it's where you get into trouble and you kind of have to dig yourself out of a hole, and you do what? You go throw heavy. So I just see Evan Ingram's usage going up, and Jacksonville hasn't been a great team, but they had a nice couple stretch of games before losing by a significant amount. T-Law seems to be hurt. I mean, he's questionable going into this week. Things may change if T-Law is not under center in terms of whether or not we really want to be active with this pickup on Evan Ingram or just let him sit on the bench. But with guys going down left and right, there was a patch where Mark Andrews was down. Obviously, no Dallas Goedert. Obviously, no Zach Ertz. There's fill-in options here for sure. We're kind of hitting the end of the bye weeks, but it's still good to have somebody who we know has upside. The Titans matchup, in my opinion, and there's 2 of them, is perfect. They allow the second most passing yards in the NFL at 277. That's also probably because they are so innately persistent on taking up as much time of possession as possible with that run game. They win a lot, so as a result, teams are going to go throw heavy against them. You're typically going to see that. Same thing with the Chiefs. They win a lot of games. They usually get in arms races, and the Chiefs don't have the best secondary, so that's another reason for that. But Evan Ingram is going to be my value pick at tight end. As per usual, folks, everybody on this list, as of this morning when I put this list together, is owned in less than 50% of leagues. So more likely than not, they're going to be available in your league, even if you're in a deeper league. I don't see a whole lot of people picking up James Cook right now unless you watch these videos. Then you should be, as I said, increased opportunity there. But just to review, Jared Goff at quarterback, consistent play and a great fill-in option for guys like Lamar Jackson. Justin Fields, if that injury progresses and he gets shut down. Mac Hollins, due to the increased opportunity, tough matchups against pretty good secondaries, but the number 1 corner is always going to be on Devontae. Pass game has always been pretty strong and definitely high in usage. Nico Collins, I mean, that's just a guy who has taken over the wide receiver number 1 spot on the worst team in the NFL, so he's going to get plenty of action down the stretch in every game. And then Evan Ingram, increased involvement, vulnerable matchups coming up in the secondary, but teams, I mean, mainly speaking about the 2 Tennessee games there, but going up against teams in Tennessee, Dallas, and New York, who are probably going to beat Jacksonville, probably going to boot them out of playoff contention. They already pretty much are. And as a result, Jacksonville goes throw heavy. Again, this situation flips completely on its head if Trevor Lawrence is out. So let's look at a couple other people we can pick up. Streaming defenses has been a huge topic that you guys have brought up to me, so I'll definitely be looking at that. Brian Pereira says, of course I dropped Dulcich and Ingram at the last second for Conklin. Still won in the end before Sunday Night Football thanks to Hurts, A.J. Brown, and the freaking Browns special teams. Yeah, rule of thumb for streaming defenses, if they are going up against the Indianapolis Colts, sorry excuse for an offense, and I'll say the same thing about the Houston Texans, especially as they revolve quarterbacks now. Start them. I'd start the Chiefs. I'd start the Lions against some of those teams. I mean, seriously, those 2 offenses are so extremely bad. Bruised up. I'll put the Rams in there too. You know, they were down to Bryce Perkins. I believe they got John Wolford in there now, who had a somewhat respectable game. Those are offenses I want to attack by going after the opposing defense and saying, yeah, let's stream them. So speaking of which, let's look at some stream options as well on this live stream. Okay, we'll go in here. Yeah, drop your records in the chat. Where are you guys at as we head in to week 14? Looks like Treylon Burks had a concussion. He was our week 14 or week 13 fantasy player to watch. Was owned in less than half of leagues. Was getting more involvement. I see Jimmy Garoppolo out as well. So that's another one we got to really look at and just say, well, it's Liz Frank. So, oh, he could return. I'm just seeing that now. Love to go in flex and try and get as many stream options as I can there. Raheem Mostert's going to be an interesting one because we had a very low usage amount of Jeff Wilson Jr. Curtis Samuel, I mean, I was telling everybody to drop him not too long ago. I'm not going to go back on my word yet because Taylor Heineke and Terry McLaurin really have that heavy connection. Zay Jones was an interesting one. The usage went down, and it was another Christian Kirk day not too long ago. So against that really weak Detroit defense, he was only able to get 2 receptions for 16 yards on 9 targets. So really just wasn't racking in the opportunities. Could have had a nicer day. Tennessee, 2 times in the next 5 weeks, especially if your playoffs go to week 18. Maybe Zay Jones is somebody we look at. Christian Kirk, I think, is still going to get a majority of those touches. Cam Akers having a nicer week than Kyren Williams. That's something to definitely look at. Still not consistent play, and he does go against a Las Vegas front that includes Chandler Jones and Max Crosby. Not something I'd be jumping at the opportunity to go after. Again, a really nice day just because of the touchdown production. Did have a reception, so there's a little bonus point. But the 2 touchdowns are what saved him. Still not an efficient day for Cam Akers at 3.5 yards per carry. See, we have a question in the chat. Jelly of the Month says, Lazard was dropped by right before game time last week and has a bye. Is he worth a pickup for weeks 15 to 17? Current wide receiver 4 combo of Jacoby Myers and Joshua Palmer. 3 wide receivers and flex PPR. Okay, thank you for the context. So I think Lazard is a fine option. You know, it's still going to be more so the Christian Watson show is what people are saying. But really, if you think about it, Christian Watson's just getting a couple of explosive plays, and he's great for fantasy. I benched him, I would say, 1 week too long. I wanted to make sure he was a consistent performer. But if we look at Allen Lazard, I mean, we can just straight up look at his fantasy production as of late. Let's go all players. I think Allen Lazard's a great pick. If he is, the fact he's available in your league is a little shocking to me. I know the production of Christian Watson makes everybody think that he's going to get all the touches, but Christian Watson got hot in that Dallas game, right? 4 targets, and we've got 11. 3 not thrilling, but that's a really tough secondary. 6 against the Chicago Bears. Even without touchdowns, 3 of the last 5 weeks, we have Allen Lazard having, 2 of the last 4 weeks, we have Allen Lazard getting in double digits. A little concerned about the usage, but again, Christian Watson is more explosive play reliant. There's a backup safety in, which there has been on the 2 previous teams the Packers have played against. Eagles safety got hurt like halfway through the game. Eddie Jackson was out going into that Bears-Packers matchup. You know, Lazard's still the one. It was Dobbs for like a couple weeks, in my opinion. He was getting a higher usage and had a better catch percentage, but Dobbs has been hurt, obviously. Christian Watson got 8 and then 6, 3 times in a row. The 7 touchdowns is what's really appealing. But Lazard's still getting those red zone targets. If we look here. Yeah, I think Lazard's a pretty good pickup. I would say so. Current wide receiver 4 combo of Jacoby Myers and Joshua Palmer. Joshua Palmer's a great one, Jelly of the Month, because if we look at his usages of late, I mean, we have Mike Williams pretty much going down as soon as Keenan Allen came back. I think they played like 2 quarters together. Don't quote me on that. If you guys are just jumping in, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and then drop those questions in the chat. Let's get you geared up for week 14. I know those playoffs are coming up if they're not already here. Probably one of the most important, if not the most important weeks of your fantasy season. So let's help you out, research your opponent. Joshua Palmer is a great pickup. I'm glad you have him on your team. You probably grabbed him a couple weeks ago. It's really thrusted into that wide receiver 1 role when Keenan Allen was out. Got more targets than Mike Williams for a short period there. Williams gets hurt. So now it's pretty much Palmer and Allen going hand in hand. You can see pretty much 1A, 1B when Allen came back. 2 weeks ago, it goes 8 and 10. Palmer out targeted him, tied, and then Allen got the nod. So kind of easing back into this offense, of course. Great catch rate at 66%, leading the team in receiving yards. He's been their consistent guy. Health is wealth, and he's been healthy. Jim896 asking if I would answer start sit questions. Yeah, absolutely. So I do open question and answer sessions after I give my 5 picks, and I'll give it to you all guys right now. To Jared Goff, James Cook, Mac Hollins, Nico Collins, and Evan Ingram for 5 pickups, all owned in less than 50% of leagues on the ESPN Fantasy Football app. Those are people you should pick up and put on your team. Some in deeper league situations and others mostly referring to Nico Hollins and James Cook. James Cook could really be taking that job over the course of the next year. I think he has a starting running back role, whether it's in Buffalo or somewhere else, in the next year to 2 years. Way too much talent on that team, in that backfield, for those guys to both be in the same spot, in my opinion. Jim, I definitely do answer start-sit questions, so throw those my way, and we'll do some deep dives for you to make sure that we have you geared up for Week 14. In the meantime, I'm just looking over streamers for all of you right now, people who have appealing matchups, in my opinion. Wide receivers and throw-heavy schemes, running backs and run-heavy schemes, all that good stuff. And then using this 10-team league as a model right now. Again, that's not going to apply to all of you, so that's why I'm really just looking at this right here. The ownership percentage of some of these people. Devin Duvernay was interesting to me for a while. I mean, without Lamar now, we have to ask how much is that ball really going to get thrown. Tyler Huntley will definitely tuck it and run a lot more too. It's more what he is comfortable with at the moment. Nico Hardman was a great pickup a few weeks ago before he went on the IR. 12, 13, 28, 19. He wasn't giving Juju a run for his money in terms of that wide receiver 1 spot. You could see the usage here, but he was definitely producing, getting in the end zone a lot. Tight end's a hot topic for sure. Robert Tonyan, man, he was my drop last week. I'm going to sit with it. The low usage, 2 targets, just 1 catch for 10 yards. Might as well be 1 yard. Has not scored over 6 points since week 8. That was against Buffalo. Has only scored in the double digits twice this year. Really liked the pick early on, and I hope you can understand why. 5 targets, 7 targets, 4, then 12 against the New York Jets. Caught 10 of them. I really thought that was part of the resurgence of Robert Tonyan after a somewhat down year last year that was plagued by injuries. Could not have been further from the truth. Darren Waller was a huge disappointment this year for sure. Cole Kmet, more usage against the Packers again. I think that he definitely needs to be on a roster. The usage has stayed up. I was a little worried at first, going, okay, let's not just chase points. Is this sustainable, especially the 2 targets? I mean, that's not a great day if we're really thinking about it. 9.1 for a tight end, that's actually all right. We knew these 2 performances were not sustainable, and subsequently they were against the 2 weakest, in my opinion, up there with Tennessee. Secondaries in the league, and I say weakest also because, with Tennessee, they're going against throw-heavy schemes a lot, and maybe I'll give Miami the pass with that too, because they're always winning, or they're winning more times than not. So as a result, the opposing team's going to go throw-heavy. You're giving up garbage time stuff, all that. Detroit lost a lot of games until, really that week. They've gone on a run as of late. So that was one of the weakest secondaries he could have faced. He's got some interesting matchups coming up. With Philadelphia, at least we know, game script-wise, and same thing with Buffalo. Hey, Bears are probably going to lose these pretty handily, so you hope that the most run-heavy team in the league goes more throw-heavy in the latter half of those games, and then you have 2 nice secondaries to go up against in Detroit. Minnesota's still pretty rough on the back end. Let's get some context from Jim here. I am 9-4, 12-man deep PPR league. My wide receivers are Christian Kirk, DJ Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Allen Lazard, and Tyler Boyd. My quarterbacks are Trevor Lawrence, got to watch his injury now, and Daniel Jones. If I pick up Goff and Chark, do they give me better playoff chances? Yeah, so let's look at this. If you pick up Goff and Chark, I'm assuming in place for Lawrence, somebody deep in your wide receiving core, or maybe you just have space for this. Goff has a tough remaining schedule, Jim. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mentioned that when I was talking about what he has going on, but he is having one of the better years this year. I know these aren't really fantasy relevant stats, but the fact that Jared Goff on this Lions team, a team that is, a lot of people thought was going to stunt the growth of Matthew Stafford, he's having one of his best years. I would say in most metrics, it's top 3 among the 7 years he's been in the NFL since being drafted then. 2018 is the last time he was able to put up over a touchdown and a half per game He's on pace to have well over 20 touchdowns. He's got 19 through 12. His wide receiving core is getting way more healthy. But Jim, I will say he has one of the tougher schedules coming up. If we look here at Fantasy Pros, great tool, everyone. I really want you to use this as we head into the playoffs. And my apologies for the shorter stream on Saturday. Got right off my shift and still had to take care of a lot of other things, but still wanted to make sure I got on. I can't use the I have a busy life excuse because all of you have busy lives, yet you're still coming and watching my stream pretty much every time. I see a lot of frequent followers, and I appreciate all of you a ton. So I'm still going to make the time, of course, to put out this content for all of you and help you out going into Week 14. So if we look at quarterbacks, this is just strength of schedule. I was just filing through them. It is sorted from easiest to hardest. So Jared Goff. Right. All the way up here. Brock Purdy has the easiest schedule. You know what? Multi-touchdown game for Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft not too long ago. That's interesting to me. These guys, Russell Wilson, Mike White's still a really good pickup. Mac Jones, hurt, Actually underrated. He's been pretty consistent, but Marcus Mariota's in the second most run-heavy scheme. Anyway, not going to sugarcoat it for you. Jared Goff's got a pretty tough upcoming schedule, but I do think with that healthy wide receiving core, nonetheless, I really do like his chances. Would you put Goff in top 10 QBs, and if so, where? I'm going to go right outside of top 10 QBs, Jim. I can name some off for you that are on this list right now, especially fantasy-wise. Okay, if we go down the list, when healthy, okay, he's not healthy, so we'll leave Lamar out of it. I am putting... I'm putting Tua ahead of him, and this is in no particular order at all. I'm putting Tua ahead of him. With the weapons he has, I'm going to put Kenny Pickett just a hair ahead of him. That's 2. Kirk Cousins, I'll make the same argument, and he's way above him. That's 3. Joe Burrow, that's 4. Okay. Kyler Murray, especially with the dual threat aspect, that's 5. Derek Carr, I'll say is synonymous with him, so we'll say he's tied. Justin Herbert is definitely 6. Jalen Hurts is definitely 7. Josh Allen is definitely 8. Justin Fields with his running ability is definitely 9. Geno Smith is definitely 10. I'm putting Dak Prescott above him, Patrick Mahomes above him, and you can fight me on Trevor Lawrence, but I think he's slightly above him as well. I'm putting Goff in that 12 to 14 range. I still think he's going to get the job done for you, Jim. He has a very high floor, and what I mean by that is even on his bad days, he's not really going to put up a horrible performance. If we look at Goff, one of the most enticing things about him in this waiver wire market right now, where is he? Is just that. His bad days are not horrible. He's had... I would classify 3 of his weeks as horrible. I look at the number and go, oh, I'm screwed. And you could pretty much see all 3 of them coming. You'd make an argument against the Giants. You thought he'd do a little bit better. Against New England, that's a really tough secondary. Maybe we didn't know it yet. They kind of came out to a slow start. Dallas, you better not have started him. That's just that. Dallas, number 1 in so many defensive categories. Green Bay had a somewhat tough day, but he still got 11. Chicago, it's kind of hard to get passing yards against that team, believe it or not, but he still got 15. Buffalo's a really tough matchup, still got 17. Jacksonville, those are matchups you should be scoring high on. He did. He got 22. Seattle really took advantage of what's ended up being a way better defense than we thought as those rookies have developed. Minneapolis is tough wire to wire, but they do have kind of weak secondary, so that's a bit of a letdown. Washington's defense has been better than we thought. Yeah. Philadelphia, putting up that, yes, it was garbage time, but that's what we want to see. We want to see 15 to 16 points at least against one of the toughest defenses in the league. So, yeah, I'm going to go, Jim, I'm going to say we go get Goff in place of maybe a Jones or a Lawrence. I think you can upgrade on either of those. I think Trevor's better than him, but Trevor's hurt now. Chark's supposed to have some upside, but we've got a lot of pieces. We've got Amon St. Brown. We've got Josh Reynolds. Jameson Williams supposed to be coming back. I like Goff more than just Goff and Chark. I would pick Goff out of those two for sure. Fill in at the quarterback position and maybe swap Daniel Jones out in that run-heavy scheme. Because, A, the offense for Dallas or for Detroit is healthy. But B, they're more pass-heavy than a team that really just leans into Saquon Barkley and the Giants. And that works, but we don't have to be a part of that in terms of our fantasy team and watching our quarterback production suffer. And then, Alex, let me go back to your question. Corey, is Christian Watson solidifying his place as a firm wide receiver 2 in flex? I played him over Olave for the past 3 weeks, and I'm impressed. Christian Watson has definitely solidified himself as a wide receiver 2. I was a little reluctant over the course of my first couple weeks because if you look at Christian Watson, the usage really has not been that high. But he's being used on these end arounds, and anytime you can get him in the open field, it's about as impressive as a performance as you're going to see. Great open field speed. Does have that bye week here, unfortunately. I would call him touchdown reliant, but he's getting them consistently, so that's really not a valid argument. 4 straight weeks with touchdowns since he had that breakout game against Dallas. 2 100-yard receiving games. You see the occasional rush here. He had the 46-yard rush to seal the game against Chicago. Even before that, we're working with 13.8 points. This was just the frosting on the cake. So, against a tough Philadelphia Eagles secondary, he was able to beat his man and make a undrafted rookie safety who was filling in for somebody who got hurt halfway through the game look like an absolute idiot for taking the angle that he did. He's doing so well, and it'll be interesting to see who lines up against him in Los Angeles. I don't know if Ramsey, maybe they'll just play, no, they'll probably man him up. It's still not a great wide receiving core in Green Bay, to say the very least. It's developing for sure, but is Ramsey going to line up on him? Is Ramsey going to go up towards Lazard, or if Dobbs was back? But 2 of the next 4 secondaries are so vulnerable when you look at Miami and you look at Detroit. Minnesota doesn't have a great secondary either. That's probably the one Achilles heel I would say they do have. So, Alex, Christian Watson is definitely a firm wide receiver 2 flex, especially, just look at the point production. Nobody else is really doing this right now. 32, 21, 21, 24. I love double-digit streak performances. Donovan Peoples-Jones had one going on for a while and got it cut last week. 2 weeks ago now, sorry, because he did have the kick return touchdown. But 20-point streaks of 4 games against varying defenses, you got to go with it. So we're starting Christian Watson. I love Chris Olave. I think he's very consistent. He's going to get you your 11 to 13 points in every given week. Christian Watson has been unlocked in Green Bay. They're utilizing him. It's no secret they're utilizing him, and they're finding different ways to get him involved. Wouldn't be shocked if we see some more end arounds with him, because if you can get him off the edge in the open field, it's a dangerous game for the defense. So, Alex, yes, he definitely has solidified his place as a firm wide receiver 2 or flex. If you guys are just joining, make sure you like and subscribe. We are helping you out-research your opponent going into Week 14 of fantasy football. Jelly of the Month says, I need a PPR flex. We've got Joshua Palmer, Jeff Wilson, or Rachaad White. Wilson, 0.3 points last week, but that was against the Niners. Yeah, he just wasn't used either. The Chargers have been bad versus the run, but I'm not sure on the Mostert split going forward. Thank you for the help. We're just using 1 PPR flex between Palmer, Wilson, and Rachaad White. I'll tell you right now, Jelly, I'm more times than not with PPR in a flex. I'm going to lean towards a certified pass catcher, a.k.a. a wide receiver. So in this case, Joshua Palmer. Let's look at the usage situation. I'm steering clear of Jeff Wilson because he is splitting carries with Raheem Mostert. I elected to sit him because that was against the Niners. I did not expect him to get the ball once, so that was a little shocking to me. If we look, we were already in here actually, so I can just pull this back up. Rachaad White's an enticing one. I am between those two. You could pick either of those, and I think you'd be okay. Of course, he caught that game winner against the Saints in prime time. I'm telling you guys right now, this Bucs team is going to make the playoffs. People are going to look at it and go, okay, well now Tom Brady is going against, Geno Smith or somebody else with nearly not as much experience as him, and that you could kind of say that about anybody in the NFC, and he might just go on a run. I'd be scared on that Dallas defense. I think that if they can get enough pressure on Brady, which they definitely will, he's going to have a lot of trouble. He was missing Mike Evans on a couple of wide open plays, but, that's just me playing armchair quarterback. That's the name of this brand, so, you'll see me commenting on that a little bit. Rachaad White really didn't do that well on the ground, but he was bailed out once again by his productivity in the past. And I was saying this, folks, he had limited production as that running back 2. Anytime you're the running back 2, he was behind Leonard Fournette in the most pass-heavy offense in the league, and that is the Bucs. And you can still have 20 receptions just a few games into your season. I'm impressed. And of course, he gets so involved in the pass game. You could look at him strictly as a pass catcher, and what do we have? 16 points, 13.5 points. He's so heavily involved, doesn't matter what he does on the ground. Still getting his touches on the ground. like Rachaad White a lot. So, ooh, yeah, we're between Rachaad White and Joshua Palmer for sure. Don't hate me if Jeff Wilson does well, but I'm really not going to deal with a running back in a split back system on a pretty throw-heavy offense. It's not something I need to do. It's not something I want to stress about. I want to choose guys who I know are going to get the ball. That is just me. So now let's look at their matchups, of course. As we have Jeff Wilson going up against that Buccaneers team. Front seven's been pretty solid. It's going to be hard for them to run the ball. I'm sorry, I still think Jeff Wilson's on the 49ers. Just talking about it. He is going against the Chargers. Again, that's not going to matter too much to me. Rachaad White going up against the 49ers is what I meant to say. So, again, now he has that same matchup. You have to ask yourself how much of that was the split back situation. And let's actually look at the snap count percentage. For the Dolphins, because look, if he wasn't even in the game, that's a whole nother argument, right? Mostert is now slotted as the one. Jeff Wilson took a significant dip in usage. Mostert's first week back, 61% of the snaps. Wilson drops from a firm 61 that he was sitting at in each of the last 2 weeks, obviously the bye week in week 11 for them, goes down to 37%, cuts his production, or his usage pretty much in half. So now we do have Rachaad White going up against the Niners. And then Joshua Palmer against the Dolphins. I will tell you all of this right now. Chargers, Dolphins, two of the best wide receiving cores in passing games. Even with how bruised up the Chargers are, let me make sure Mike Williams is still hurt. I believe he is. That will impact who I'm leaning towards. I really think Rachaad White, especially with his involvement in the passing game, can go. But I am leaning towards Joshua Palmer for possibly 2 reasons. Yeah, Mike Williams we need to monitor. He has been upgraded to questionable. It is Tuesday. We have to see his involvement in practice. It's only Tuesday, so we know nothing yet. Should take part in practice this week, Coach Staley says. So with that, yeah, Jelly, we're going to avoid Jeff Wilson after that poor performance and lower usage. Mostert is now officially listed as the running back 1 on Tuesday. Let's monitor that, but there's your answer, in my opinion. Weak run defense or not. I'm going to go, look, Joshua Palmer against that Miami secondary. If we look, Palmer getting a lot of those red zone targets. Keenan Allen's back, so he'll poach some of those too. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Miami allowing 1.6 passing touchdowns per game. Bottom 10 in the league, a very vulnerable secondary. I like Joshua Palmer, and I think that's going to be an extremely high-scoring game. If you like offenses, I mean, I'll call it right now here on December 6th, Tuesday of Week 14. I think the Chargers and Dolphins both pass up 30 points easily. It's going to be like 37-33 or 40-37. I could see that going really high scoring. Chargers defense has been pretty vulnerable with the exception of the back end. They've still got Khalil Mack, they've still got Bosa, Derwin, but there's definitely been injuries in terms of those key players beyond who I just mentioned as well. Going up against the Miami secondary, I could definitely just see, I think it's going to be an arms race. Miami is still a contender in my opinion. I think the 49ers losing Garoppolo could really hurt them. One of the most complete teams in the league, and they lose their quarterback, but we'll have to see. Long story short, I like Joshua Palmer a little bit more than Rachaad White, but if you want to get Rachaad White, who has been very involved in the passing game, can't hate you for it. In my opinion, let's steer clear of Jeff Wilson. After that performance, the demotion in the depth charts, don't really care that he has an easy matchup because I don't think he's going to get the ball as much. Surprised, Ricky. Mostert is available in your league. I might be a fool, but I'm thinking of starting James Conner over Mostert. Oh, I'm thinking of starting James Conner or Mostert over Williams for my last game. Conner has the better matchup. Got to look at matchups who is this? Yeah, Brian. So, for your last game. Yeah. Brian, are you talking about Week 18, or is this your last regular season game that you're referring to? Keep making my way through the comments here. Make sure you drop your questions in the chat. Make sure you like and make sure you subscribe so we can help you out-research your opponent going into Week 14. Let's look at the upcoming schedule here. I'll tell you right off the bat, these are two pretty tough run defenses. New York is as well. Minnesota, so-so, especially with Za'Darius. Green Bay is going to give up roughly 5 yards per carry, and we'll see how much that game really matters between these two teams. They're both not out of it yet, but by Week 18, they might be. But Green Bay actually allows a decent amount of yards per carry. If you're talking about the last week, Brian, let's see if you said anything. Not yet. So, looking at strength of opposition is obviously huge. I know you're looking at the matchup, who James Conner's playing, but really, Green Bay allowing 5.0 yards per carry. That's 4th worst in the league. I like the fact Jamal Williams is going up against them, and I also like the fact that Jamal Williams has the most red zone touches of anybody in the league. So I'd watch it there, especially because James Conner is really inefficient. But if you like the matchups you're seeing, can't argue with that. Babjap, wonder what your thoughts are on CMC's usage now that Jimmy G is out. I think it's kind of the same situation, not to compare Jimmy G to Mr. Irrelevant, but Babjap's something that we've seen over the years with new quarterbacks coming in, and Brock Purdy will be the next example. They love to do two things. 3. Well, we'll combine it to 2. Lean on running backs one way or another. What does that look like? It's a more run-heavy scheme, but it's also checking down to the running back 2 things that Christian McCaffrey's kind of made his bread and butter over the course of the last few years since being drafted out of Stanford. And they'll also look tight end. So I think George Kittle's usage will go up. Why do they look tight end? They're right in the middle. You can revert to them as a default progression, a fallback. You don't have to whip your eyes left or right. You can look right in the middle. They usually have the shorter routes. George Kittle goes out in the flat. George Kittle's also an amazing pass blocker, so maybe he'll just be used as that. But I do think that the tight end and the running back are utilized a lot more than the guys outside the numbers. You're talking those deep post fades that are some of the hardest throws in football. You're not going to have your new quarterback do that, okay? Especially somebody drafted in the 7th round right now in the development stage that Brock Purdy's in. So I think CMC's usage will be just fine, Babjap, especially considering that, in my opinion, he's still the most talented player on that offense. I would put George Kittle up there because of his dominance. Deebo Samuel's so versatile. Everybody's had their own character, but I think CMC's usage will be fine. Backup quarterbacks lean on the running backs, and they also lean on tight ends. And whether they run or check it down, the more the merrier for CMC, especially in a PPR format. Jim, Tom Brady makes me want to believe the NFL is staged. 16-3, 2 touchdowns, last few minutes. Tom Brady's going to go into the playoffs, and I swear to goodness, if somehow he plows through the NFC, which I think will be hard to do if he runs into the Vikings or the Cowboys, but if he were to run into like the Seahawks or somebody, that'd be pretty interesting. With the way everything is sorted, that's not going to happen. Yeah, I'm going to throw a fit. I'm going to throw a huge fit. I'm not going to lie. Or, the 49ers. What if he runs into them? We don't know. I need a defense for playoffs this week. Playoffs do start for you, Lucius. Okay. Options are Ravens, Pats, and Titans. Titans going up against the Jaguars. A pretty healthy Jaguars team, although we got to watch T-Law. If T-Law's out, my perception changes a ton. Pats or Titans. Patriots going up against the Cardinals. Patriots against the Cardinals, Ravens against the Steelers, Titans against the Jaguars. Between those 3, if T-Law is out, I'm going Titans all day long. They do allow the most passing yards in the league, or second most passing yards in the league. If T-Law is gone, I see a heavy reliance on Travis Etienne, who not too long ago hurt his foot. Darrell Henderson's the running back too, so that's kind of the situation we're looking at there. But in this order, Ravens have a solid defense for sure, but that's not, in my opinion, the most optimal matchup. Steelers, Kenny Pickett's developing. They still aren't putting up a ton of points, so maybe I go Ravens against the Steelers, to be honest, because the Steelers weren't putting up a ton against an Atlanta defense that is known to be pretty exposable in the secondary. Kenny Pickett's still got George Pickens, still got Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, Najee in the open field. I think I still have the most, although I do like Kenny Pickett, I got the most confidence in the Ravens. From there, I'd probably go Pats and then Titans. Ravens and Pats are 1A, 1B right now because the Pats had the strongest defense by far of anybody here. Can we trust them to shut down Marquise Brown, to shut down DeAndre Hopkins, to shut down Kyler Murray in the open field? That's the big question. I'm probably going Ravens against that developing team in the Steelers that's on the up and up, or Pats, the strongest team of all, going up against arguably the best offense that these three are facing. Reminder, Ravens going up against the Steelers, Pats going against that Cardinals team. Little concerning to me. Titans going against the Jaguars without T-Law. So I'm going to go Ravens. Oh my gosh, yeah, Ravens or Pats. Those are my favorites, and that's why. Brady is done. I question any player that still has him, Rodgers or Russell Wilson on the roster. Russell Wilson should be long gone. Broncos country can ride as far away from here as possible. That's my opinion. This is my last regular season game. I'm glad Jamal Williams gets a touchdown, but I guess I was expecting more points from him. Yeah, Brian, we're starting to see DeAndre Swift really coast back in. It's not because of health. He's been healthy for a while, but Brian, let's look at overall usage here. We see we got some more people in the chat. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Let me know what your record is and if your playoffs started. See, we've got some people starting their playoffs. Personally, mine start in week 15, so good thing we are addressing this now. So let's just do a little case study on Brian's situation here, and then we'll get to the remainder of the comments. And if you didn't tune in before, we were talking about Jared Goff, James Cook, Mac Hollins, Nico Collins, and Evan Ingram as possible pickups at this point in the season. All depending on the depth of your league, how your lineup looks, of course. DeAndre Swift. Okay, that's who I'm looking at right now because obviously he's the one taking away the touches from Jamal Williams. Okay, DeAndre Swift still slotted in as the running back 2. Jamal Williams still the 1. Williams only getting 30% of the snaps. Swift getting 51. Okay, and we kind of saw this slow crawl. DeAndre Swift came back in. Usage went down. And then ever since week 10, it's 31, 31, 34, 51%. Swift used a lot more out of the pass game. He is a more efficient runner. Averages more yards per carry than Jamal Williams. Little worried, but he still gets more red zone touches than anybody else. I think Jamal Williams still has a place in fantasy teams. Depending on the remainder of your lineup, I'd go with other options, Brian, because DeAndre Swift getting way more snaps than Jamal Williams last week. Little concerning to me. And you have to understand the Lions are still a losing football team. Yes, they're 5-7, but they're not going to run the ball a whole lot if they get down a bunch like they did against the Jaguars. Or excuse me, they're not going to run the ball a whole lot if they get down a bunch like they have in past games. They whooped the Jaguars last week. So a little worried about Jamal Williams. Depending on the remainder of your lineup, maybe we exercise other options. See, Michael's in the chat. Welcome in, Michael. Appreciate you. Hey, so I play Madison this weekend. Rodgers is not playing this week due to a bye. I want to beat her, but I want a fair fight. What quarterback should Mad pick up? Oh my gosh, you're so nice. What quarterback should she pick up? Michael, how many teams are in your league? I just want to get an idea of who might be open. You're like, look, if I'm going to win this, I want to do it right. I like it. Mainly, we want to expose really easy matchups. Oh, I would never go the Ryan Tannehill route, but he does have a nice matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Pretty high floor player as well. Mike White's a great pick, but he's playing against the Buffalo defense. Not the biggest fan of that. I'll probably direct you to this, depending on how many people are in your league. 10? Okay. Jared Goff's definitely going to be open. Most likely going to be open. He's only owned in 30% of leagues. Reason I like Jared Goff is this. He's super consistent. You know, he only has 2 performances over 25 points, and they haven't happened in a while. But he's played some tough teams, Michael. Buffalo is usually a really concerning matchup for people with quarterbacks. He had 17.6. Minnesota allows a lot of passing yards, like a ton. So if you look at Jared Goff's strength of opposition, opponent rank, this would be the 8th most fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks, and we can supplement that with how many yards are they allowing through the air. Minnesota allowing the most passing yards per game through the air at 283. If your league is like most, you're getting a point for every 25 passing yards. I like Jared Goff a lot. Let me give you a second option just in case he's not available. Kenny Pickett's not the worst stream. He hasn't been doing great, but he's still going to get you a consistent 12 to 20 points. He's played his fair share of tough defenses. Cincinnati, Indianapolis, those are tough. I expect him to do better against Atlanta, but if you look, he's playing Baltimore. Baltimore, again, bottom 10 in the league in passing yards allowed. I'm taking Goff. Oh, Goff and Huntley are available. Oh, and Cousins. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. Kirk Cousins is available then. See, he's not in my league, so let me just go all. Yeah, Kirk's playing the Lions. Kirk's playing the worst defense against fantasy quarterbacks in the league. If you want to give Madison a fair shake, you're probably going to have her pick up Kirk Cousins. As you could see, had the one really bad performance against Dallas. That was when Dallas blew this team out. Again, he passes the eye test against tough defenses like Buffalo. 16. New England, he had 22, which is phenomenal. He's got the best wide receiver on his team in the league in Justin Jefferson, and I don't see anybody in Detroit covering him. I'm going Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff. Only reason I would lean Goff is if Minnesota goes up by a ton late in this game, they're going to stop throwing the ball. However, Detroit has such a poor pass defense. I think Kirk Cousins is the best play. So let's go Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff. I'm personally leaning Kirk Cousins. He has the better matchup. So if you want to give Madison a fair shake, let's go Kirk Cousins. Such a great sport. So Brian Pereira, I don't think it will matter in my case. I have the worst fantasy luck. I'll play Williams and Mostert, and Connor will somehow get more points in the end. Come on, Brian. No, I know. Sometimes it just seems like everything goes haywire. If we look at James Conner, Brian, Michael, thank you for asking those questions. If you have any more about your team, any start sits or people you could pick up on the waiver wire, let me know. Is this your playoff matchup, Michael? I'm curious. It's week 14. I know people are either 1 week away or they're starting. Some are 2 weeks away if it's a smaller league. Says, thanks, just picked up Cousins. No problem. Anytime for you guys. Super off topic, but if you guys love amazing music, Michael, who is in there, Mikester HD, he's part of a band called The Astronomers. Plenty of followers on YouTube, so if you look them up, they're the first thing that'll come up. Great alternative pop. Last week before the playoffs. Perfect. But great band Michael has. You can look them up on Spotify. Just saw him do a live performance today. Very talented group. So not at all related to football, but I've used their music in the past for my streams. So got to give them a shout out there for sure. I just want to look at James Conner for Brian real quick. I know you're saying like Conner's going to have, a good week once I bench him. Yeah, he's improved. 3.9 yards per carry. 4 touchdowns. He's so touchdown reliant. I'll still say that. Many are going to say, oh, James Conner had a great week last week. He literally faced arguably the worst rush defense in the league with all those injuries up front. The pass involvement's nice. But, if we look at yards per carry allowed, bet you every dollar in my wallet that the Chargers are still down there. They are the worst. Literally the worst. 5.4 yards a carry. So if we look at James Conner's upcoming matchups, I don't want to shoot him down, right? He's just really inefficient. He's been pretty healthy for the most part. Denver's going to be a tough one. Tampa's going to be a tough one. Atlanta's San Fran, arguably the worst. So, the worst matchup. Yeah. This week for Conner against Denver, not the biggest fan of it. I like Williams, Brian. He gets so much involvement in the red zone. Anybody who's leading the league in red zone touches, I'm a fan of. Mostert's still got that split role with Jeff Wilson. They keep switching over at the running back 1 spot, so I would say Williams is still my for sure. Conner and Mostert, you could flip a coin on that one pretty much, but we're not going to do that. We're research-based here. Conner's got... it's tough. Mostert's got a way better matchup, so I'd probably go Williams and Mostert, in my opinion. But again, if you guys have research that contradicts mine, by all means, go with it. Mike says, my guys, see you tomorrow. Everyone go follow. Appreciate you, Michael. Again, everybody look up the Astronomers. Phenomenal music. You will fall in love, just like the other like 250,000 who are following them on Spotify have. So huge shout out to Michael, that entire group. Babjap wondering if I prefer ESPN or Yahoo for fantasy. First time I'm playing ESPN. My brother tells me Yahoo is better. I mean, I don't know. It's all point. It's all really like point format if you're doing standard PPR or half point PPR. I like how ESPN sets everything up in terms of how you can find their stats, Babjap. I've always been an ESPN guy. I used Yahoo last year to try and give them a chance. I haven't given them a fair shake in a few years, and I wasn't the biggest fan. You know, the way everything is kind of sorted out, I think is really easy to find. I'm a big navigation person. That's really what I think differentiates a lot of these apps. If we look here, you know, standings up top, opposing teams, fantasy, store, I guess if you want to buy some merch. You know, your scoreboard here. Fantasy Cast is going to tell you your odds. It's going to give us an ad now. Maybe I like Yahoo more because of the ads here. But here, we'll wait for this to go by, and then yeah, you get the chat. I don't think anybody talks in my league. Yeah, not really. Projections, you know, those are all going to be pretty much formatted the same. My big thing is setting watch lists, live draft trends, waiver order, but that's really just whoever had the worst record has the waiver preference. From here, it's all pretty much just your usual, your rosters, your schedule. I'm always looking at watch lists. Scoring leaders is huge. If you're a big analytics person, who is doing the best, who's projected the best, why are they projected the best? I don't lean solely on projections, but you know, I try and find information like, are they in a pass-heavy offense? Does their team lose a lot so they pass the ball even more? What's the usage like? Are they efficient? You know, are they have a high catch percentage despite not being targeted much? Who's hurt around them? Are those opportunities going to rise? All that good stuff. So, yeah, Babjab, I would prefer ESPN just because I think it's set up nicer, but they all do the same thing. I am more of a point format stickler. I was standard until like 3 or 4 years ago. Then I switched over to PPR with the rest of the world. I have one standard PPR or standard half point PPR league as well. I think you have to get rewarded for usage. Although it's kind of funny if a guy has like 7 receptions for 24 yards and you're still able to finagle 9 points out of it. I'm more worried about the league format, but I would probably take the ESPN. But if you like Yahoo, you like Yahoo. Nothing wrong with it. Eric, welcome. Hollywood Brown or James Cook at flex, full PPR. Patriots defense is pretty tough, top to bottom. I'd be a little bit worried about that. So then our other look is James Cook. How much has he been getting used? I mean, he's facing the Jets. So because it's full PPR, let's look. I'm typically going to go with the pass catcher. James Cook, I am aware, had 6 receptions for 41 yards. I would also be enticed to go with the pass catcher because obviously Zach Ertz out. Rondale Moore battling. Greg Dortch battling. It's pretty much Marquise Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. I'll take 8 targets. High catch rate of 68%. All these guys catch the ball at an extremely high rate. Greg Dortch especially. For somebody who still gets about 10 yards per reception. So he's getting those throws down the field. Yeah, I am going Hollywood Brown even though it's a tough matchup. James Cook has been getting more involved for sure. We look here. I mean, 20 touches. That's pretty impressive to me, especially the involvement in the pass game or the pass catching game. Both guys are going up against really tough defenses for their category. James Cook going up against the New York Jets, only allowing 4.1 yards a carry. Marquise Brown. We just have to ask ourselves is, if we look at, we're looking for the Patriots here. Nope, wrong one. I mean, the Patriots. Why can't I see it? Oh, it's up here. Just a shade over 200 passing yards per game allowed. So we're seeing two really tough oppositions for sure. But I think with the Hollywood Brown situation, Patriots are a much better football team, much better defense. So they're probably going to slow that offense down early. Maybe a big Ramondre Stevenson day for the Patriots. Go up a lot game script wise. Yeah, we're going to see plenty of passes. And the Cardinals run more they run more plays than anybody else in the league. Plenty of no huddle. More opportunity there for sure. Because it's PPR, I'll take the wide receiver 2 on a team that runs more plays than anybody else. Then a running back who I do believe is great, but is still fighting for that running back 1 position against a really tough run defense. Both tough matchups, more optimal situation for Hollywood Brown in my opinion. Hey Animal says, I missed this. You didn't miss anything. Pop your questions in the chat if you want to know who the waiver wire ads are. If Hey Animal's in here, it's Jared Goff, James Cook, who I just mentioned, Mac Hollins, Nico Collins, and Evan Ingram. Okay? Didn't miss anything at all. If you have any questions, we're doing a Q&A session for a while. Eric says, which 3 wide receivers do I start? I've got Amon St. Brown, Scary Terry, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Michael Pittman, and Hollywood Brown. Okay, so this was the flex spot between James Cook and Hollywood Brown. So let's say we went with Brown. Brown's at your flex right now. So I'm choosing between Amon St. Brown, Scary Terry, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Michael Pittman. Okay, let's go through them all. Oh, rest of season. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Washington has a bye. They do. Scary Terry's been the primary target for Taylor Heineke, and it's not the best run game with Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. They've been switching a lot for a reason. No problem, Hey Animal. Pop those questions in the chat, man. Christian Kirk is the wide receiver 1 for a team that loses a lot of games, and T-Law likes to spread the ball around a lot, but with Trevor Lawrence being out, we got to consider that. Gabe Davis is a boomer bust player. Michael Pittman's on a struggling offense. Matt Ryan has no clue what he's doing right now. I mean, he missed him on multiple occasions. Not playing the toughest defenses in the world, and he's still struggling a lot. Really thought they'd take advantage against that Raiders secondary, and they got absolutely shut down. I'm probably going those first 3, to be honest with you. Amon St. Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Christian Kirk. Those are the wide receiver 1s. Amon St. Brown's on a pass-heavy offense. They're healthy. Jared Goff knows how to spread the ball around, and the team loses a decent amount, so it's kind of the perfect match. I can say all of the same things about the Jaguars, even with T-Law being hurt. They pass the ball around a lot. T-Law is questionable, so he should be back the following week, if anything, which is probably when your playoffs start, Eric. If not, it still stands true in that he'll be back soon. Wide receiver 1, team passes the ball a ton. Scary Terry, same thing. Gabe Davis is boomer bust. If we look at usage, he's on the same team as the top 3 wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, in my opinion. Let's close all these tabs so we can sort things a little bit easier. I mean, it's clearly Stephon Diggs, right? Gabe Davis in there at second. Isaiah McKenzie kind of competing with him as of late. Same amount of receptions, way better catch percentage, but Gabe Davis, more yards per reception than almost anybody in the league at almost 20. Very exciting offense, obviously. Commanders' offense, it's not very exciting, but 35 receptions on the year for Gabe Davis. Terry's almost got double that. PPR, that's 30 more points. Nearly 1,000 yards. 3 touchdowns doesn't bug me a whole lot because of the high usage. Christian Kirk. Again, sorry, I will get to all of these questions as soon as possible. Just trying to be really thorough so we can help you out research your opponent here. Christian Kirk, great down the field target. Same thing here. 99 targets, 62 receptions. Pretty much in the same boat as Scary Terry, except he has slightly less yards and way more touchdowns at 7. And Amon St. Brown, if we look at him, when healthy, has been an absolute beast. will likely still hit that 1,000-yard barrier. Milestone, if you will. And he's only played 11 games. So, guy who definitely capitalizes on his targets. We got 9 for 10, 7 for 8. 10 for 11, 11 for 12. That is phenomenal. 3 100-yard receiving games in the last 4 weeks. Also pretty impressive. Got the 6 touchdown upside already at 100 targets. Those 3 guys, in my opinion, are the best rest of season, Eric. Yeah, let's go on Monterey and Kirk. Let's leave Davis and Pittman out. Brown's the wide receiver, too, on a team that runs more plays than anybody else. However, I think with the attention being so heavily focused on DeAndre Hopkins, yeah. Is Pickens worth keeping after all the crying? Yeah, I mean, the same thing with Odell Beckham Jr., and then he left shortly after. You kind of have to ask yourselves, okay, what's going to come of this? Are they going to stay on the team? Pickens, unhappy. He's a rookie. Will he leave? These are all questions kind of being asked. He's still had a decent amount of targets. No problem, Eric. If you guys have any friends at all, any family members who are looking for fantasy football advice, if you're in the same league as them and you're playing them, maybe don't give them my channel right away out of your own best interest, because you'll be listening to the same source. But if they're not in your league, or you don't play them, or one of you is in the playoffs, the other isn't, by all means, spread the word. Let's grow the family here. You will. I mean, he's mad about one game. For that, he's still the 3rd most targeted guy on this team. I'm just passing up Chase Claypool, who left a while, obviously. So really, he would have been 4th. Catch rate's fine. It's a team that I really do think can get in the playoffs next year. They're close. They're 5-7. They've developed a lot. Kenny Pickens has come a long way. Kenny Pickett has come a long way. George Pickens. You know, if you want to go out and get somebody like, let's look at a few availables, like a Zay Jones, the wide receiver 2 on a pass-heavy offense. Treylon Burks, if he becomes healthy again going into next week. I know he's got a concussion. Pretty nice production too the last 3 weeks against some decent secondaries. Has some really optimal matchups coming up if he plays against Jacksonville. Otherwise, he's got the Chargers and then Jacksonville again. DPJ is always a solid one, and now he's got some involvement in the kick return game too, so that was pretty exciting. We've got 6 for his last 7, 7 for his last 9 in terms of being in double digits. Very underrated. So, yeah. Oh, I just smacked my mic. I'm sorry about that. Pickett just can't get him on. Yeah, Michael Gallup's a good one. The wide receiver, too, on Dallas. That's a pretty pass-heavy offense. High flying. Makes a lot of great contested catches. So, Dak's going to give him those go-up-and-get-it balls. He'll get some more down-the-field targets, and that goes for him and CeeDee Lamb, really. But I think he'll definitely get more targets. Yeah, let's go Gallup over Pickens right now with the state of that more developed Dallas team. Is Mostert droppable? I have Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift, and Dalvin Cook as well. If you have those 3, yeah, Mostert had some nice upside in that last game. Seems like he's still the running back one. They just keep switching back and forth between him and Jeff Wilson Jr. Yeah, I would say he's droppable if you want to go out and get another good flex. You know, you can get guys with more established spots. If J.K. Dobbins was still in, I'd be going his way all day long. This one's really going to be interesting to me. Because Donovan Knight's been used twice in a row now. I would definitely go after him. Michael Carter or not. If you have a guy producing like this, 4.9 yards a carry, 6 yards a carry, well involved in the passing game too, I'm a big Donovan Knight fan. I'm not going to lie to you. Then Breece Hall is going to come back next year, and we have to ask ourselves, now what? But actually, not going to lie to you guys. It is win or go home for me. I might see the running backs I'm working with. I got Eckler, and then I fall off a cliff. Deontay Foreman. Decent matchups coming up. Singletary. Not really sure if I'd be dropping any of these guys. So mad Christian Watson's on a bye right now. Yeah, maybe I'll be fine. Donovan Knight's definitely got some upside too, though. Yeah, I'd say he's droppable, Eric. You can always go after somebody else, considering you've got Eckler, Swift, and Cook. Swift getting more usages of late. Let's go after him. Drop one, go after more. Traded CMC for Jacobs around week 5. Well, that's aging pretty well. They were laughing at me. Well, now you're laughing, hey animal, because Josh Jacobs had the nice walk-off performance. He's had couple of consecutive 100-yard rushing performances. Josh Jacobs, who saw this coming, man? I mean, the Raiders were struggling so much in the beginning of the season. I still think it's too little too late for them to make the playoffs, but who knows? Blocking schemes have been genius. 1,303 rushing yards. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's already had the career year. He could stop right now and he'd be good. I'm pretty sure it's a career high in rushing yards. Career high in rushing touchdowns. He's approaching it. Career high in yards per carry. Not much else to say there. He's a great pass catching back. He'll probably get to 2,000 yards. He is at 1634. This guy's a dog. Absolute dog. Great trade. Aloha, any flex appeal in Seattle running backs? Also, favorite defense / special teams. I'm assuming just for this week between Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, and Tennessee. We'll start with the defense. I was kind of talking about this before, so I can build off what I was saying. I'm staying away from Tennessee going up against that Chargers team. They might even have Mike Williams back, and they haven't really had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Joshua Palmer all on the field at the same time with, yeah. We haven't seen that yet, and if we see that now, I think the Titans, a team that allows the second most passing yards in the league, could definitely struggle. So then if we look at Las Vegas and Pittsburgh, we're going between those two. Yeah, I'm going Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh going up against a Panthers team that seems to be changing their quarterback on a weekly basis. It's Darnold now. I'm going Pittsburgh. And then flex appeal in Seattle running backs. I mean, yeah, what are we on the third running back now? It was Rashad Penny. Then it was Kenneth Walker III. Travis Horner, DJ Dallas. Or Homer, I'm sorry, Travis Homer. Known him for a while. Homer's been a limited action guy out of Miami. DJ Dallas had a couple full starts last year. Look at that profile picture. I love it. Yeah, I don't see too much. If it's a deeper league, you can go flex. Maybe a DJ Dallas. I think he has more upside than Travis Homer, but that's just me. Pittsburgh has Baltimore. I am on the wrong week. I'm so sorry. I'm on week 15. Thought that was odd. I'm like, that's not what I saw before. So Tennessee, Las Vegas, and Pittsburgh then. Yeah, Tennessee playing the Jags. If T-Law's out, we're going Tennessee all the way. Vegas playing the Rams. Ravens playing the Steelers without Lamar. Right. Without Lamar, let's go that. I don't think Tyler Huntley's going to help this team score like 30. We know it's going to be a run-heavy scheme, especially with him outside of the pocket, even more so than Lamar. That's his element. I like the Pittsburgh defense a lot. I think that'll be a bloodbath. We could see like a 13-10 game. Tyler Huntley might get the job done, but it's not going to be a high-scoring game. Working for a new contract. Yeah, you're right, to be honest. Josh Jacobs is definitely getting signed after this year. Eric, should I drop the Jets defense for the Cardinals defense rest of season? Let's look at the strength of opposition. Appreciate you as always. Anytime, George, anytime. Again, if you guys are just stopping in, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We are helping you out-research your opponent going into Week 14. We've got Start 2, Sit 1 segments coming up pretty soon. We have the quarterback position going up tomorrow, along with the running back position. And then we've got wide receiver and tight end going up on Thursday. Pretty exciting stuff. Jets rest of season. Let's look at that real quick. Let's see. Cardinals or Jets? I still think that the Jets through and through are one of the best teams in the league in terms of just their ability to stop the other team from scoring. But if we look, yeah, I can kind of see the appeal. I mean, Arizona has the 5th easiest remaining schedule for a defense, and New York has the 9th hardest. Let's see here. Yeah, not scared of Denver at all. Tampa's been subpar. Atlanta's not going to light up the scoreboard, and we may not have Jimmy G. Jets. Detroit, one of the better offenses in the league when it comes to all teams being overall healthy. They pretty much are. Jacksonville, T-Law should be good by then, we would think. Seattle and Miami. Yeah, strength of opposition. Let's probably go that Cardinals defense. Eric, I know it sounds insane. I really had to look at the matchups there, but I think anytime we can really pick on those teams that the Cardinals are playing against, I'm probably going to go after that. We got to make money moves going into playoff time here. We don't need something that makes sense for months and months in a row. We need something that makes sense for the next couple of weeks. Considering the opposition there, I think I like that the most. Yeah, I'm definitely rolling with that. No problem, Eric. Yeah, if anybody else in chat has, I see a few of you are watching right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Ask me any questions you have, start, sit wise, anything like that. Again, head into week 14. We want to make sure that we equip you with the best information possible. Again, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your lineup. I'll tell you what I would do if I was in your spot, but consider it my job here. So I do plenty of research every week to put the most research-based information in front of you and give you the best chance to win. Here's my team here. Best 1-2 punch in the league, in my opinion. Well, one of the best, really. Austin Eckler, the best running back in fantasy in the league, and then Justin Herbert, consistent top 10 year in and year out so far. It's phenomenal. I wanted some high usage guys, so I knew Christian Kirk was going to be in that pass-heavy offense. Signed pretty big contract, and as Taylor Heineke said, the more you pay somebody, the more they're probably going to get used. Never really go wrong with Debo, especially with his unique involvement in the backfield. No other wide receivers really getting that action in the backfield. And then Michael Pittman's kind of flopped as of late. Really, Matt Ryan's just not able to get him the ball. Christian Watson was a good free agency pickup, 20-plus points in standard PPR over the last few weeks. Isaiah Pacheco starting to be involved in the pass game. I was worried about that, worried about him being one-dimensional, but we've got 2 weeks in a row now where he's caught a pass. Pretty efficient when he does have the ball in his hands. Bills and Eagles defense because I like to hog 2 top 10 defenses, but usually I wouldn't. Waiver wire isn't anything too appealing for me. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So with that, folks, I think I'm going to hop off the stream. If you have any additional questions, this video, of course, will be archived. You can drop those in the chat, and I will be checking the Armchair Athletes comment section routinely to make sure I answer. You can also go on any of the YouTube shorts, ask me your questions there. It doesn't really matter if they relate to your exact question or not. I'm always open to do some research for you, drop some relevant links to your question, and do everything I can to help you from there. So I hope you all have a great night. Good luck in Week 14. We'll have plenty of live streams ahead of the Sunday games. We'll try and squeak some content in ahead of the Thursday game. But until then, we will see you next time. Have a great night, everybody.